Well, a little housekeeping item before we get started. In the memorandum that was dispersed with the books on Friday, I said we had 3 more meetings, 2 hours, or each 3 meetings, 2 hours each. In actuality, there are 4 more meetings scheduled, so we have a total of 8 hours scheduled so far to get through these budget books. And again, if we're not through everything and have all your questions answered, we will schedule additional meetings. But right now, we're into September, towards the end of September, and we'll need time after we get through these meetings to compile the budget. So we do kind of have a drop-dead time when we need to, be done with our discussions if we're going to have a preliminary budget on the date we need to have it. So having said that, I would like to turn over to the mayor. I think she has some words to share with the group.
So one of the things that we've always talked about is having more understanding of the budget, having it be more transparent, and having the department directors have the opportunity to work together to understand the budget in its entirety as opposed to just their piece of it based on the department that they work in. And so I am really, really proud of the work that was done by all of the directors and all of their teams coming together, putting together their budgets, their wish lists for the year and for the 2-year budget cycle, and then bringing those all forward and we had 4 or 5 4-hour meetings to go through and identify those priorities of the city based on the mayor's priorities that you've all seen and I think have agreed with. And so we came together and looked at what the priorities of each department were and prioritized those based on the priorities that we have in place and what the department directors felt was a priority within their own department. And that was a process that I gained a new amount of respect for each director in that room because it wasn't all about them. It was all about what's going to be best for this city. Everyone would, of course, like to have all of the program improvements that they had brought forward, but knowing that that wasn't going to happen, I was quite impressed with their willingness to put aside their own wishes and look at what was going to be better for the greater good of the city. And so I think when we go through this process, you will see that as well, and you'll hear from the department directors and their teams what their priorities are and how we came to those decisions. And a huge amount of thanks to Shelley and to Tamara and to their entire team putting these binders together. And quite frankly, this is the second set of binders this size that the directors and I have received because we went through all of the program improvements and all of this information in those 4 or 5 4-hour sessions. And so a good number of very late evenings, very long days, probably some weekends to get us to this point. And so I'm sure that you agree with me that we want to express our appreciation to Shelley, Tamara, and their team for a great job that's been done. And thank you.
I have a point.
Would you use your own microphone, not mine?
One of the things is the mayor's top priorities. My concern was we didn't have enough in economic development written within the mayor's priorities, and I was hoping to see something that would have been more along the lines of more in economic development, because I didn't think we had enough in the mayor's priorities. So I would have liked to have seen more in that area. I wrote an email to that indicating that, but I didn't see any changes in that.
Well, so there were no changes, Wayne, to the priorities, but we had a great deal of discussion on that with the directors in the room, and the agreement was that there is economic development built in to just about every one of these priorities. Even though it doesn't specifically say the word economic development, it's built into the priorities.
I would have much preferred that we had something written in economic development.
Well, you'll see that there's a lot of economic development built into
I know. I
budget.
read the book, and I see where it was put in, but I thought the priorities, it would have been enhanced if we'd have put it within the mayor's priorities.
Okay.
I think we'll follow, as we get the details in here, on economic development. I have a number of them tagged because I'm kind of in the same boat you are, Wayne, that even though it is spread around and is an important part of the whole thing, it seemed like it was underemphasized in this book.
Okay. Largo?
What I'm hoping is when the directors do their presentations, maybe they can highlight that aspect in their presentation. That should help a little, but I too would like to see it in a more specific scope. Secondarily, based on our previous televised presentations, I've had a number of people contact me and are thrilled at the idea of us, the department, sharing things that they are cutting and streamlining the cost-saving pieces. So if the directors, when they do their presentations, can talk about economic development and some specifics, and also talk about that difficult job that they've done with you and your leadership on things they've done to delete programs that maybe have not been effective or cost savings, I know the public is really interested in that.
Okay. All right. Are we ready? I don't want to be remiss. I know you all haven't had an opportunity to meet Bob Brooks. He is our new financial planning manager. He's been here all of a little more than 2 weeks, so he's getting up to speed and learning. Tamara knows where all the itemized things are in the budget, and she's going to, was what I call drive the presentation today, and Bob's going to take notes, and we will go through this and hopefully answer any questions that you have going through. Going to the first slide, number 2. This is who's on first. And we've laid it out in a timeline so you can see that we're at workshop number 2. We do have 4 more scheduled, August 26th, September 10th, and September 24th. Each one is a 2-hour workshop. The next 2 are on a Wednesday, and I think the last one's on a Thursday. But also, we are going to have a public hearing at council on September 15th and on November 17th. And we plan on adopting the property tax levy on November 17th. And hopefully this budget, not this one, but the final preliminary budget, will be adopted on December 1st. Going back a little bit on the September 15th public hearing, that's when we will be presenting in a public format the property tax levy and anticipated assessed value and what the levy is and that sort of thing. Were there any questions on the process and where we're at right now? When we put this budget together, we had to estimate our revenues, and we are not being really down on the economy. We think that there's been a moderate pace of improvement at the local, regional, and national level. Those were the things that we kept in mind as we went through and estimated revenues for the next 2 years. We do have some cost pressures from rising health care and pension contribution rates. And I don't want to call this a cost pressure, but we do have union contracts in place through the end of 2015 and one through the end of 2016. We have Teamsters that went out 4 years. So keep that in mind, that we do have those things going on. And what we wanted to do, our guiding principles for this general fund budget in particular, what we wanted to continue our existing services, support the workforce, still be conservative in our financial planning, and maintain reserves, the minimum reserves. And we are coming in at the end of 2016 with an ending fund balance in the general fund of the 8%, the minimum, of about $5.2 million. Okay, so again, I don't want it to sound redundant to ad nauseum, but we do have 2 books. The general fund is the smaller book, and then all the other funds are in the big book. We have organized each department with the org chart. We have our department overview. We have our accomplishments that we've done in the 13 and 14 budget and our objectives moving into 2015. If they were available at time of print, the performance measures have been included. We do have a department summary by object. This is the general fund, and that's expenditures when we say summary by object, as well as revenues. Revenues are, I think, more by sector, or not cost sector, but incoming sector type, whether it's taxes, permit, licenses, fees, fines, that sort of thing. We have department FTEs, and these are not how the FTE is allocated, but if there's a department that has 10 FTEs, all their salary and benefit may not be budgeted in that department. We allocate salaries out. So when you see department FTEs, that's who's living, that's their home department, not necessarily where their salary is charged. We have also provided the department budget detail by line item and the capital facility plan projects and financing, if applicable. Again, you're not going to see the itemization of salary and benefits. We do have a budget salary and benefit budget module that we have all the authorized staff positions in. We run that, and then we summarize it in the lead sheets that you have at the front of each department. If we were to include all that detail, it lists it by salary for each department where the person's charged, and some people may be charged to 5 or 6 departments, plus every benefit that they have with the city. And that gets to be, these books would be 5, 6, 7, 8 times as big as they are now. So we haven't done that. We rely on that budgeting module for salaries and benefits to get those salaries in where we've indicated that we want them to be.
Shall I should have brought this up on the budget context, but in your CFP, you have an appendix that has a lot of, I don't know what you call them, performance measures or indications of debt load per capita, and sales tax history, and all those things that, to me, are the context of what we can afford to do and what we need to do. I'd like to see in some of these workshops some review of those statistics so we better understand them, other than just all of us having read that appendix.
Okay, that's the statistical section of our financial report?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think it'll help us have context.
Okay, great. Wanted to provide you with the general things that are throughout this budget. We do include all the step increases. We do include all of the contracted salary increases or benefits that have been negotiated. We do have a unaffiliated salary increases commensurate with the union contracts. What we've put in, you can see the percentages there that we've put in for health care, dental, and vision, and these are based on preliminary numbers that we've already received from our health care provider. These, of course, are subject to change, but they're a little bit lower. Well, health care is a little bit lower, but dental care and vision are a little bit higher than we were expecting. But we've got the tentative ones, or the preliminary ones, in there. Bill?
Oh, sorry.
I have a
Shelley.
question on health care.
Can you make sure that your microphone is
Yeah,
up?
thank you. I will. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. On health care, I've always been curious how much the employee pays for their health care. And I don't see the 5.8, 6 point, and 5 point. That really doesn't give me the bottom line for the employees. Is there something in here that shows me that?
No. The employees do participate. It depends on what's negotiated in the union contract.
Right.
And the unaffiliated, we participate 10, 15% in the health care cost. Rob?
The employees pay 0, but it's 10% for dependents.
Oh,
for the
thank you, Rob.
unaffiliated.
10% for dependents. And do you know off the top of your head what the union contracts call for?
It depends on the affiliated group. The police, Bill, do you remember? Pardon? Yeah, I think it's 10% across the board. Machinist is 10% for both the employee and the dependents.
Okay.
And Teamsters, they went to a more of a higher deductible plan, and
I think the city picks up 100%
we
of
do
that.
because of the cost savings.
I guess what I would like to know, Shelley, is what do other cities do? Do they all pay? Do employees all pay zero?
In some cities, the employees don't pay anything, and in some cities, there is a cost contribution.
I would really like, this has been dealing in my head for 10
Okay.
years now, and I would like to see what surrounding cities pay for their health care, dental, et cetera.
Okay, would that be something then that we would work through, maybe a council workshop of the whole, or committees?
I think that would be better addressed there. It's not, I understand your concern, but I don't know if it's really part of this budget process. Information on health care costs we've shared in the past during contract negotiations, but if you'd like to see what the specific, like for employee only, employee and spouse,
I would.
full family, we can provide you that information.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks.
Okay, L&I, if you recall, we did go to our self-insured L&I plan last year. We're in our first year gathering some experience rating. But we did do some increases at HR's recommendation, and those are incorporated into this budget. And there's PERS, that's our public pension system that the city belongs to. It's the state's public pension, public employees retirement system. And we are anticipating, well, we know the rate, we did get something a week or so ago that the rate's going up to 11.2% from about 9.2% right now. It's not about, it is 9.21 right now, and it's going up to 11.2 the 1st of July 2015, and we're expecting it to go up to the 12.47 July 1st, 2016. So we've incorporated those into this budget. And of course, left, they're fully funded, there's no problem there, so there's no increases. There is, for anyone's interest, there is going to be an increase on the employee side of the pension, the public employee retirement system, beginning July 1 of next year also. Property taxes are doing better. We did have a 5.5% increase in our assessed value for 2014. This budget went with the assumption that we'd have a 10% increase in 2015 and 2016. However, it could be as high as 20%. Did I say 20%? 10 and 10 each year, but it could be as high as 20% this year. We'll get those numbers in September from the county. But we're still able to levy. We have an assessed valuation to levy what we have requested in this budget. And as if you've read through here, we have anticipated the 1% increase over last year, plus new construction of about $400,000. There are also some new positions that have been requested in this budget as program improvements, and those are ongoing costs. Therefore, we are asking for an additional $600,000 increase in property tax to fund those positions, which we will be talking about later in this budget.
Shelley, do we have to use our bank capacity to do that?
Yes. And sales tax, we did about a 4% increase each year. This gives you a little bit of an idea of what's going on in Auburn with property taxes, sales tax, other taxes. We have 2013 actual, 2014 budget, 2015 and 2016 projections. You can see that property tax, we had that nice, well, in 2013, we could not levy as much as we'd even levied in 2012. So when we were able to levy again, you can see there was a bump in 2014, and then you can see the increase in 15 and 16. And sales tax, you can see that we're thinking that the economy is moving forward at a moderate pace, so we have incorporated that assumption into our revenue estimates.
Do we have a graph somewhere that shows on our property tax increases, how much is bank capacity, how much is value increase, how much is just us adding to 1%?
I do have that.
Is it in one book?
It's not in this book, and it's not in the presentation,
Why don't you
but
bring it next time?
I do have that in here, in one of my slides or tabs, and, oh, it's in here. We've got about $2 million.
When I see a 20% increase in revenue, that seems a little bit scary unless I know the details of how we might get there. And so I don't need to know that right now.
Okay.
I'm wanting to know it.
Yes, we do have that. I do have that calculated out, and I can send out an email. It's still, at the end of, with this budget, at the end of 16, we have $20 million of levying authority, and this still leaves us at the end of 16, I think it's about $2 million of bank capacity. It gets us up close to 18 million.
I think this says 2.7 million, Shelley.
Oh, where are we at?
If you look back on page 6, assume an additional levy to provide 600 to fund 6 new staff, leaving the city with over 2.7 million of bank capacity.
There you go. Knew it was at least 2 million.
Not every city chose to bank their capacity, and there was some controversy, I think, when they decided to do it, that citizens would be angry. They didn't hear a thing. Maybe they just didn't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's there. It's nice to know that we have it there. If there's ever a need or an emergency or opportunity. It's not always a negative thing. Okay. Okay, and this again talks about the 6 positions. And I wanted to show you what the impact would be. It's $600,000 a year for the 6 positions that we're recommending. And it's about $18.71 a year on a $250,000 home for your consideration. And this is repeating some of the things that we've already talked about, the rising health care costs and pension contributions. But to address the economic development, as we go through this, there have been some enhancements in the program improvement area and as well within the operating budgets for economic development services and increases in that level of service. And also for citizen engagement to reach out so we get more participation by the citizenry. And this is a simple pie chart that you can look at that gives you an idea. Well, it doesn't give you an idea. It tells you our revenues by type and our expenditures by object. Yes. And here is the summary of the budget. And we have revenues projected of around $59 million for each year of the budget, and expenditures at about $63 million in 2015 and almost $65 million in 2016.
Can you talk a little bit about the ending fund balance and why it changes so much?
Sure.
15 to 16?
But we are using both revenues, current year revenue, predicted revenues, plus fund balance to balance the budget. And we anticipate, we're well enough into 2014, we think that we'll have about $3.5 million of revenues or expenditure savings from this year that we can utilize next year. And that's why you see at the end of 2014, the ending fund balance of 11.1 million, it is increased $3.5 million to 14.6 at the beginning of 2015. So this is conservative. I don't recommend that we bank on what we think might happen in 2015. We generally don't spend everything that's budgeted. We generally receive more than we budget, a little bit more in some years than others, than what we budget. And we have put some moderate revenue growth in here. So I don't recommend that we anticipate that there's going to be $3 or $3.5 million on the table in 15 or 16 until we're well within that year and we can start seeing how revenues are shaping up and how expenditures are trending.
So 2014 and 15 are somewhat inflated because of unfilled positions and other things that we just didn't spend as much as we thought we would. But typically, our ending fund balance is somewhere in between those numbers, isn't it, like 7 or 8?
At the end of 2013, it was the 15.4 million, and the prior year, at the end of 2012, it was 16.2 million. So we're starting to debride it a bit, erode at the fund balance. So we need to watch that and monitor that.
So you're not concerned about the 5.2?
Well, when we're at 8% ending fund balance, we tend to be more conservative with our revenue estimates. And I think we have been in this. And now, if we had 16% ending fund balance, then we have the room to not be so conservative with our revenue estimates. Should they not come in, we do have some fund balance. But because we get down to 8% at the end of 16, and I think that we'll have some money on the table, if you will, at the end of 15 and 16. So I think we'll be okay unless something happens that is unforeseeable.
Which at that point in time, we would
have
review and make
decisions.
amendments to the budget.
And we do budget every position as though the person is there for the full year. And there is attrition, so we do expect there to be money from salaries and benefits at the end of the year, and that's what we move forward and predict our budgets on.
Shelley, is there a time, or in the past, or anticipate a time where we may have to dip into the reserves and it drops below the 8% minimum? And if so, does it have to be replenished within the same fiscal year?
Well, in the reserve policy, we are recommending that we have an 8 to 12% reserve. If we drop below that reserve, which for some unforeseen reason that it does, we do have the cumulative reserve fund. And that's where we would turn if it did. It's never happened. It will always come out better than what we've predicted.
And we did talk about, too, if it were to ever dip below that, what is our recovery plan for ensuring that it gets back to that minimum of 8%?
Right. And we would see that coming before it happened, and we would act upon it. And part of the reason the city is financially strong is during the Great Recession is what it's called. We saw this coming, and we saw this cliff. Not property tax, but sales tax literally just rolled off a cliff. I mean, they fell tremendous. And we got right on it, and we started trimming the budget and reducing staff. That's what we did. We got on it. Okay, this is just a schedule of how we're going to move forward today. In the memorandum that was handed out along with the budget book, attachment number 3 is the same schedule. It doesn't have quite as much information on it as this particular schedule does. But we're going to move forward with mayor, council, administration, human resources, finance, legal. We'll keep going as far as we get in our 2 hours allotted today. However, if by some miracle we do get to community development and public works, we're going to have to stop because key staff are on vacation. I really don't think we'll get there in the next hour and a half, but if by some miracle that we do, we're going to stop at that point. Okay. And this is just more of the schedule, so where are we going to be? Keep going. Okay, Council Mayor, you're up. And I think, was Director Hursh going to present that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Good afternoon, Council. You'll see in your books that you have an organizational chart and the departmental overview. One in the beginning of the general fund book gives the organizational chart for Mayor Backus and her direct report staff. We have the accomplishments and the objectives, the goals, department highlights, which I know you have read every word.
Rich and then Bill.
On the goals, or maybe it's on the accomplishments, I think we should mention the Junior City Council.
Good. Fantastic. Got it.
Page 4, can we go back to that?
Yep, we're on 4.
Okay. 2015, 2016 objectives, the first bullet. Since we're not going to be going to council committees, and we won't have council committees, can we change that to council study session, operating methodology, or however you want to term it?
Sure.
But just take it out of committees?
Deputy
And
Mayor?
just be goals for council and departments. Doesn't even have to say
That would work.
study section, just remove the word committees.
Good.
Right. I'm with the mayor, because we're still working on what all that's called. Maybe we'll change the name or something.
Okay.
Okay.
But I agree, take out the word committees.
Good.
Page 5, first bullet, dealing with the tribe. I think an important thing, one of our goals is not just Auburn Way South, but it's reforming their fireworks policy. I mean, we've been working on that now pretty hard the last 3-4 years.
Bill, we're not going to talk about the Muckleshoot fireworks policy in our budget.
Oh, okay.
The most important thing, and our objective, is that we enhance the relationship with them, and the economic development along Auburn Way South is of mutual benefit to the city of Auburn and the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, so that's why those are specifically called out.
And what about the Auburn Airport? Adding a bullet, and I just wrote this down, and you guys can tell me if I'm going in the wrong direction here. Continue to enhance Auburn Airport facilities to increase its business base and development.
I like it.
Huh?
I like that.
Well, that gets back to our economic development issues.
Yep, it's a good
So
idea.
that'd be add a bullet?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. I'll get the wording from you
Yeah,
a little
I'll
later.
give it
Is that
to
all
you.
right?
Yep, thank you. I have another question, too, and I know this is the,
Council member, you're at your 4-question limit. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
oh, he's kidding me.
No, not really.
Shoot.
Right in the middle of those bullets, the same page.
Yeah, on
It
5.
says add new kiosk.
Should be kiosk.
And Amtrak, we already have a kiosk at the Sound Transit Station. It's right there by the bistro.
You're right. It should say, we're adding, what you're thinking of when you see kiosk there is the downtown, the wayfinding
Yeah,
kiosks.
I know what you're referring
And
to.
this is supposed to be an Amtrak kiosk, ticket sales with, that would be.
We don't want to
complimentary with
mislead
stock.
anybody, that was all.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, I appreciate that.
I'll clear that up.
Yeah.
On about bullet 6, it says support development of remaining properties in downtown. What do you mean by remaining?
Those that
Remaining-
have undeveloped or underdeveloped?
One in particular is Bank of Washington, which while we don't own it, we have interest on the block as well as the lease for the parking.
But aren't we interested in more than just the downtown? I mean, we can also look on the west side of the tracks
Sure.
in that other area, so
I'd
I'm
call
not
it-
sure that we want to just
I'd call that downtown, too.
Downtown, I would say downtown.
Isn't that what it says, downtown?
Remaining downtown, though, what does remaining mean?
Underdeveloped's a lot better.
I guess
Yeah.
I'm looking
No, I got
for
it.
help in
I got
there.
it. I got it. Let's,
Underdeveloped properties in Auburn.
Yeah.
what did you say, Councilman Wells?
Underdeveloped properties in Auburn.
Okay. Underdeveloped's a good word.
Yeah, that's.
Page 7?
Hang on just a second. Are
Yeah,
there,
yeah, I just,
before we get to 7, are there any other thoughts related to accomplishments and objectives?
Again, this is one area where I'd like to see something more in economic development in some of our objectives.
So what are you suggesting, Wayne?
Well, I'm not sure exactly but something, a bullet that we recognize the need for economic development, or we're going to encourage economic development throughout the city. Something, comprehensive economic development.
More of a broad one than how that's embedded throughout here?
Yes.
Okay.
Specific.
A broader ECDev statement.
Yeah.
And, Michael, as you write that statement, I think we have to recognize the economic development isn't the silver bullet. We still need taxes, we still need all the other things. So I think as you write that, make it as part of the revenue base or whatever of the city, or vitality of the city, part of, not the silver bullet.
Okay. Any other thoughts with those 2 pages? The accomplishments and the objectives? All right, Councilmember Pelosi, page 7, is that what you
yeah, said?
said?
Page 7, right. In the middle of the page, 511-600.42, communication. It talks about BlackBerry. Do we still have BlackBerry service?
We do, that's actually the remediation for the Blackberries, Bramble, no, I'm kidding.
So the iPhone?
It should be Apple. It should say Apple.
Oh, okay.
Or phone service, cell phone service.
All right, yeah.
Good.
Rather than, we may change tomorrow.
That's right.
That's just how it's been loaded into the system for years.
Yeah, I know.
And it was just
I know.
copied
I
over.
would just,
That's good.
Finance
That's good,
we
Bill.
changed ours, but not all the departments did.
This is our contract, man.
That's a really,
Yeah.
that's a great catch, and on top, yeah.
well, here's another catch.
Well, no, I told you, now you're at your limit.
The next page.
Okay,
Right at the very top, miscellaneous.
there's an acronym.
Yeah, 4, community service organization dues, Serotonis, Lions, Kiwanis, and Rotary, $900. What is that? What does that cover? What?
That has been
For the directors and employees.
as long, there's been a standing policy that as long as employees are part of a service club and working toward aspiring in leadership of that club, that dues are paid on their behalf.
Yeah, but what threw me was the $900. It's more than $900.
Not for this, not under the mayor and council.
Oh, okay.
Because parks
Mayor.
would be
This is just the
parks.
mayor and council budget that we're
Correct.
looking at right now, Bill.
All right.
And Councilmember Wales said it correctly. Each department would have
Their-
an item,
their-
a line item
yeah.
for themselves.
Okay.
Can you explain to me back on page 1 of the budget report why the insurance goes from 3,900 to 27?
Yeah.
The page before the page before.
5, 7?
I would like to address that, and I'm going to have Rob Roscoe, the Human Resource Director, address that, because you're going to see that throughout all the
Big
budgets.
change.
That is a big change, and part of that was we have a insurance, property and liability insurance costs, and what drives that liability cost are worker hours. So what we did was an allocation out to the departments based on the worker hours. So you're going to see, depending upon the worker hours in that department, that number go up or down accordingly. So it's a way of allocating the costs back to the departments based on the worker hours that are reported from that department.
So in turn, I should see some departments where it actually goes down.
Possibly, yes.
Great.
Now, overall, we had a bit of an increase anyway, but yes, you will see it more, it's a piece of pie and how we divided up that pie into the different departments.
Because that's a pretty significant increase. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
There's a mirror.
Hey, Michael, I had a question on page 1 as well, on 2015, budget line item 3, National League of Cities conferences.
Yes.
And it said for the, this is on page
Same
1,
page of the
the first budget page,
Report.
under travel.
Well, the page number is actually on
It's on the side there. It's the page 7 on the side, right. But it's under the travel, under 2015, and we have National League of Cities, and it specifies 4 council members serving on National League Committee cities. If there's an increase in council members participating in National League of Cities, it looks like we're restricted to 4. And I think maybe we should keep that not a number, but just 4 council members.
FOR.
Not the number 4.
Yeah, no, it's a good statement.
FOR, right.
It's a good statement.
Also on council retreats, it says 2 times a year. How many times have we had council retreats that are twice a year?
Well, typically, or what we like to target is one that's a vision and one that's budgetary. So, okay.
Councilmember Trout, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I was just wondering back to page 2, line 4, well, it says miscellaneous. I'm a Lions, but I don't have my dues paid for, and I've got on here Lions on here.
Where are you?
so-
No,
We're not managers.
We're exempt? Okay, I thought you said mayor and council.
no, this is the mayor and council budget, but within the mayor and council department, there are department directors and employees.
Okay.
And so their dues are covered as part of the budget and approved by council. And about 2 years ago, there was a vote of council to reduce the amount of dues that would be applicable to a council member to $100 per year.
Okay. All right.
I had one more question on that same page. Under interfund facilities, we show an increase in facilities allocation from 14 to 15, and I'm just curious as to how the allocation for facilities is arrived at.
So part of that, too, is because the department has changed. So, but there is an allocation process.
Michael, would you like finance to
Sure.
pitch
please.
in here?
Yeah.
The facility allocation is based upon square footage, and that's it, basically. There are costs for the facility, for staffing and utility costs for the whole city. So it's based on square footage of your building, plus if there's any specific department requests for renovations, enhancements, or something like that, those are also added.
Is there a shared expense for like utilities, or is it just strictly the square footage of the facility, that's the allocation?
Well, that's how we do the allocation to bill out. And also, I think, we do look at what the utility history is.
Utilities is billed in with the equation, with the square footage. And this 14 number, correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, the 14 number was from the 13-14 budget. Council has since moved to much larger facilities.
Yes, and 14 was the original budgeted amount, not the amended amount.
Yep.
I want to say that I'm really pleased, not with the increase, but that we have the person from facilities now housed in this building,
Yep.
and that's increased. That's what's caused part of this increase, that we've pulled more of our leadership in here so that when we need discussions or problem solving, everyone is here. And so I really have enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Is her name Lisa?
Lisa, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice having her handy.
Speaking of your offices, how do you like your offices?
Thank you for my additional chair.
It's, let me put it this way, it's better than a hallway over there.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's better than all of the facilities that we had, for those of us that have been on council for quite a while. I think the offices that each of us enjoy now are far better to the cubicles that we had when I first came in, cubicle meaning table with a separation, and shared computers. And then we moved into 3 computers and table cubicles that we had to share. And then it moved down to 2. And then we were upstairs temporarily, where HR is now housed. And we each had, then you had to share a full cubicle between council members. Mm-hmm. And now each council member has their very own office, table, chairs, computer, all of the bells and whistles, even your own Keurig, right?
Yes.
What I am really impressed with, I took a tour of the city clerk's area.
Yeah.
I like the lower counter that's accessible for people with disabilities and children.
Yep.
I like the higher counter because I don't know why. I like the veneer and everything. It's very welcoming. I like that when you look in the back, you don't see all these little cubicles. You see something wide open. And I love that the records are secure and off someplace where we don't look like a warehouse.
Yep.
And I like the monitors in the lobby and the one in the mayor's office that kind of shows all the things that we're doing. So I don't think any of them are overkill. They're just very subtle, welcoming. We're here to serve you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And to go with that, if you ever want to pop your head downstairs, we'd be happy to show you, but we have consolidated our archives into this building, and they are secured and they are expanded
They're
just
behind
right
bars.
below us here across from the jail. But it's impressive. It's impressive what's been done in the last couple years. Thank you. Anybody else with the budget detail?
Well, yeah, on page 9, Crossways 9, what is the 167 completion? $20,000 in 2015 and then $20,000 in 2016.
We are part of a coalition that is a coalition of many elected officials, business owners, developers that have banded together to lobby and to work toward the state's completion. And really, it shouldn't be completion. It's the next step of 167 before we get to the widening issue that's going to happen from the connection. But we're part of a coalition and have been from its inception. It's led by Tim Thompson.
Well, I noticed that we increased in another section that we've increased the compensation to him to $11,000 a month.
We've increased the
How much are we going to be spending on this 167 when you look at the total of all of our consultants, our memberships in the PSRC, our membership in Sound Cities, and our membership in AWC? How much is being spent in total for the 167 project?
The number is, how much is being spent in total for the 167
Well, when you consider
coalition?
all of the consultants, all of the,
Well, our memberships in all of these different
but
organizations.
those also, they're pushing for 167.
They're pushing for it, but it's not the sole purpose of any one of those organizations. And we have other benefits out of PSRC, Sound Cities
I know.
Association, and all of that. So I don't know if we can quantify today how much we're specifically spending on 167. We can look into that if you'd like some more information.
Well, I was just surprised because I'd never seen this before in any of the budget books, that we had been spending this kind of money.
And it's one of those
Yeah.
items where the honesty is now in front of you of what it has been. So when there has been participation in that coalition since it began 2 years ago, there's been a price tag attached to it.
Not so much honesty, but it's become a line item because.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not that it was
charged
just,
against some other account.
that's a good statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Transparency.
Yeah.
All
Transparency.
about the transparency.
But I thought that was interesting. So how much are we paying the lobbyists that we have?
To Councilmember Osborne's point, the 11,000 additional is not to Tim Thompson's group, which is Thompson Group and Smitch out of Tacoma. Council increased their contract at the January 1st. we wanted to bring Washington 2 advocates commensurate with that, and so we're increasing them in this so that it is the same amount between the two.
Okay, because we brought W2A down to 11, and he was at 75 originally.
They were both at 75. We took Tim as a separate contract, made him 11, and now Washington 2 is 11. And it's the right way, and it's going to stay that way for, I would say, I mean, it's been over 5, 6 years that we have not increased either of those contracts, and this is the right thing to do, but we'll remain at this amount for a number of years.
Okay.
And messaging that our federal and our state lobbyists are equally important was part of the consideration in changing that amount of contracts, if you recall when we did that.
And also, because, I'm interested in streamlining and changes that we've made that have resulted in savings or just better practices. We previously had an employee, I think, an FTE that worked in this area. So that's one of the streamlining things that we've done, is we've gotten rid of that position so that we could have professionals that could really use their time at those critical times when we need it. So that's important for our public to know that we're looking at that and making those changes.
And for less than less than half of what that prior cost was related to that position, we've been able to increase their services a great deal in both agencies. And
I think so, and it might want to be a bullet someplace.
Yep.
Because it really is.
It's a good statement.
It's a real significant and positive change.
Rich?
I don't know which of our lobbyists used to give us an annual report on what they've accomplished for us, but I haven't seen that from either one of these guys. I think it's important because they always showed that they were returning about 10 to 1 on what we paid them, but I haven't seen that lately, and I'm a little bit concerned now that we don't have an on-staff person to work at that. Those guys are delivering goods, because
So
a
here,
staff person worked through those people to get us money like for the activity center, money for the community center, and on and on and on.
which we are still.
I want to be sure that we haven't really lost something by not having somebody on staff.
We haven't. Michael is still taking care of that. I'm involved in it. It's just that there's not one person dedicated to that function, but there is still weekly, sometimes 3-4 times a week, communication with our lobbyists.
We had a great sit-down.
Side conversation.
We had a great sit-down meeting with both of them together, both Tim and Tony and their team, about a situation that we are facing. They work together, and we have an annual report from the end of last year, 2013, and Mike Welch and I'm happy to get that to you. Mike Welch and Kristen and I have a meeting next week because they are going to begin to give a joint report made by the two of them related to their activities in working together serving Auburn. So it will be very good and forthcoming on a more regular basis than just annual.
Well, I want a side conversation with you and the mayor about all this.
Yep.
Michael?
Yeah.
On that same page 9,
Yes.
the very bottom under communication, Nextel.
BlackBerry. But look at 15.
2015 has been changed.
Oh,
2014 is.
all right.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
A question on the next page, on page 10. Under travel again, this is under line item 7, so 2014, we have an out-of-state.
What page?
Sorry, page 10, under travel, line item 7. 2014, we had a $5,700 budget for mayor and staff out-of-area meetings. It's increased to $20,000 for 15. It also includes Valley Regional Fire Authority travel. Just would like some explanation as to what that is and the increase in the addition of VRFA.
We have a meeting that we work with them on an annual basis related to the Twin Towers, and that has been budgeted into that for the annual travel.
As well as joint meetings in Washington, D.C.
Yep, a delegation meeting.
So in fact, it's not VFR travel. It's city travel.
That's
City
correct.
travel.
It shouldn't say
FRA
VRFA.
is
Yep.
paying for their own.
That's correct.
Correct.
There is no
We're
payment
not
for
paying for
VRFA.
VRFA travel.
Good highlight.
Yeah.
In support of.
Any other questions about the budget detail related to mayor and council, or shall we move on?
One other question, this goes way back to the organizational chart, and I wasn't able to see it, I probably wasn't looking closely enough, but on the organizational chart on page 3, it shows the FTEs for 2015 and 16, and a 1 FTE reduction for 16.
That's in total for the entire city.
Yeah. Okay, so, okay, so somewhere in here it shows the 1 FTE reduction. Okay.
We haven't decided who it is yet.
All right,
but
I
we'll let you know,
misunderstood.
but
What
Is that right? Oh, I know what, okay. This is out of general fund.
Well,
Yeah, please don't name anybody yet.
there is a supernumerary position that is funded through 2015 and is not funded into
Okay.
2016 due to a situation that may or may not be interim.
Right.
Okay.
We'll know more about this time next year.
Okay, thank you.
It's always a good day when
I
we
like
can add
you.
supernumerary into the
Yes,
conversation.
right.
we have an office pool going on about how often it takes and how early and how many times it's said
Well,
in
it's
any
whoever
meeting.
leaves first.
That's right. So supernumerary was in the first hour. I think Chief Lee actually wins the pool. Congratulations, Chief. Moving on to general fund administration, and back to our PowerPoint there. We have our organizational chart and the highlights, the objectives, which are jointly prepared and put in the mayor and council, so we've looked over those already. What you have is then the department overview, the mission statement, and the individual divisions and their accomplishments and objectives. So why don't we start with community services? Are there any thoughts or questions related to community services and the accomplishments and objectives?
Well, what page are you on?
15 is
15 and 16.
I have a question on page 14.
Okay.
Up in the salary and wages, you got 2014, 629,000, and you got 20.6 employees. And in 2015, you got 21.6, but the dollar value goes down to 44.3. Now, is that allocated to another department? Is that what it is?
There is an answer. It's not that they're going down, it's how the staffing is being allocated.
Okay. So that's what you alluded to earlier when you
Correct.
said we'll see some amounts, but then they're going to be allocated to
Correct.
different departments where they may
Well-
be assigned.
And what was in this department before was the governmental liaison
Okay.
staff person, and that position's been reclassified to another area. That's one of the reasons it's gone down.
You know,
Is that it,
again, that governmental liaison that we
Yeah.
cut that position, kind of reorganized to get a different, that
Model.
to me is a
Yeah.
real good cut and reduction. So as we go through these, if you can point out other things where, you know, sometimes the money amount doesn't change, but the service quality changes significantly. I
Sure.
would really like to be aware of those, because
Sure.
it shows that we're looking at existing services and also looking at additional services.
Absolutely. Thank you. Efficiencies.
Yes.
So community survey, or we're fine to just do division by division, or we can tackle the whole thing, the accomplishments and the objectives for all the divisions. Are there any questions about those before we get to the budget detail?
I have a question about sister cities. Do we have a philosophical limit on how many? Are we going to try to have one in every continent? Are we, what's our philosophy on sister cities?
So we do, well, it's not that we have to have one on every continent, no. I don't think there's a philosophy of that nature. We are supportive of the Sister Cities organization. We have one in China, one in Japan. In fact, we hosted Japanese exchange students this morning, and also in Korea. And there is thought and action looking at another sister city in Italy. The Sister Cities organization is always looking at other opportunities that involve economic development, education, and other commerce. So that committee is always looking at other opportunities for potential sister cities.
As we look to the future years, I'd like some kind of a report on sister cities and the benefit, the economic benefit to us, the direct and indirect economic. I would appreciate that.
We can get that put together. We'll ask the Sister Cities organization, and Dewana is the city's liaison to that organization. Rich?
I think if we only look at it from economics, it's a loser. I think you have to also look at the cultural advantages for our entire city, for having students and all sorts of things happening. So as you do this report for Councilmember Wales, I would like you to also include some comments about the cultural advantages.
I don't think you would get any type of a report from the Sister Cities organization that had anything less than everything they believe you're getting out of it.
Okay, good, because that's what I was alluding to when I said indirects.
Yeah.
Because that's where the benefit's going to be. And I think it helps us review those benefits, especially if we're looking at expanding to Italy or some other country, to look at those indirects. It makes us a global player, and I think that philosophically we have tried to be a regional player, and it does not hurt us to also see ourselves as a global player. But I think we need to be re-educated.
Agreed. And the clarity of the information, because everything, I mean, it's constantly changing and it's growing, so that's good. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Michael, on the 2015-2016 objectives on page 16,
Yes.
we have a bullet point that mentions improve the availability of emergency housing for crisis situations and residents.
Yes.
Is that an undertaken solely by the city, or is that in partnership with other organizations?
That is in partnership with other organizations, of which some are very familiar.
Yeah. Can we make some sort of a statement saying in partnership?
Sure.
I just think it makes a stronger point that way of looking at bringing others into the fold.
Can you think of an organization that would work with us, Councilmember DeCoursey?
Yes, I can. Yes.
I was excited to see the last bullet there. In my frequent visits myself to the emergency hospital or the emergency room and talking to some of the employees there, I think that they would greatly appreciate us being able to provide some transition type services for some of the people that end up at and that can't be the first and last intervention. And so I'm really excited to see that.
It is. It's something that we need more conversation about. It's a constant struggle for our emergency room. It's not fair to the hospital. It's something we need public health and the county to support and not stand in opposition to, which has been the case. But we need it in South King. Yeah, and in Auburn.
Thank you, Michael. I was so excited also when I saw that, because that's something that I've been also reached out at. What are we going to do for these individuals that go to the hospital? They're there, they have to be released, and they're just released out into the streets. So they would really like us to partnership and work with them and see how we can come up with something.
It would be a huge, huge improvement for quality of life.
Yes.
Yep. Should we go by division to division? Is that all right? Should we move on from community services to emergency management, or go farther if there's no questions, thoughts?
That's pretty impressive accomplishments.
They do a great job, and over 600 CERT volunteers, trained volunteers that are an email away.
I saw the youngest CERT young
Yeah.
man at Auburn Days.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You know,
Him and his dad.
after council recognized him, did you read that story about his dad who saved the guy from the burning car in Tacoma?
Yeah.
The guy who stood right
very
here
next
with Mayor
day.
the very next day put that into action and gave a shout out to Auburn CERT training because he pulled a guy from burning car, ended up all over the news. Yeah. There you go.
I saw that in the media, and
Yeah.
he did announce, getting the training here.
I was glad to see that we're saving people not just here in Auburn, but we're continuing our regional effort to save lives everywhere we can.
We're ambassadors.
We can't even help it. Economic development is page 20.
I'm concerned about a couple of things about economic development. The Innovation Partnership Zone is not mentioned, and I don't know if that's because Doug is losing interest. I don't think it is.
No.
No.
Because he's really pushing that thing. And I think it ought to be somehow described in his accomplishments and plans.
Sure. We can add something about the IPZ.
And then the other thing is, I don't see how we can have economic development function without staff support. I don't know whether Doug's asking for it or not. Well, I don't see it in the program improvement. But it seems to me like even though we spread economic development around, there are focused things that department, whatever you want to call it, is going to do where they need dedicated staff support. So I guess I'm lobbying, since Doug hasn't, or at least hasn't ended up in the approved ones, for some staff support for that function.
We have a plan for administrative support for that position as these functions are approved, which we will go through here in a minute for program improvements about the program piece.
But embedded there is some support to the economic development manager?
The administrative support for
And-
the office.
Okay.
There is also a wonderful person that comes in every Wednesday to support Doug, Tiffany, that has just been a huge benefit and really picked up quickly on what Doug needed help with, and she does a great job. So it's not as if Doug is sitting in that room all by himself trying to get everything accomplished. Up in the office upstairs, to be quite honest with you, everybody helps everybody. And it's not just, this is my silo, I've got to do this, and that's your work over there, you do that. It really is whatever you need help with in that office upstairs, that's how it gets accomplished.
And the efforts of Director Snyder and Assistant Director Tate and their team with planning and building, permitting, Darcy Hanson, I mean, there is great support for all of our efforts related to economic development that is spread around the city.
I guess I'm more concerned about initiatives like the IPZ. I doubt if that would exist if Bill Thomas hadn't been here to write the application. It's a 60-page application. They're going to do several drafts. It's an administrative kind of thing. He was probably overqualified for writing it, but at any rate, all I'm saying is I see an example of where when economic development had dedicated staff, something happened.
Sure.
It might not have happened otherwise.
Yep.
And I'm concerned that some of those initiatives may not happen because of lack of support.
Thank you. Councilmember?
Michael, one other thing too, under the objectives for 15 and 16, wouldn't we want to include that that Thursday get-together of community businesses?
Yeah. How about expand outreach efforts and networking opportunities?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That way, because that is a big deal.
And
I thought
Rich,
did that get mentioned in the other book, the 3 No?
It gets mentioned in the program improvement because
Yeah.
part of the funding that's related to the improvement lists what is the funding for supporting those kinds of efforts. So it is mentioned in the program improvement, but it could be mentioned here as well, easily.
I mean, it's an objective.
Yeah.
I
Wayne.
want to support Rich in what he's saying in the fact that I think there's a lot of things that may be going by the wayside that Doug is unable to do without having some sort of staff support. Because I think he can reach out to other areas that he just doesn't have time to if he's having to do a lot of his administrative functions and stuff on his own.
I want to take that up a notch. I don't know if what he really needs is administrative assistance, is a cohort, a professional in that area to bounce ideas off and tag team. I think that we've underestimated in these documents economic development, coupled with having only one person instead of two. I'm just really worried that we're not going to have it in the high profile that we've had in the past. And the economic development leadership that the mayor has provided in tandem with that staff that's now one person is what's really responsible for germinating some of the incredible things that we've been allowed to do to keep us well and above what the rest of the communities around here are doing. And sometimes you need two people for that kind of germination, and you can't do it with an administrative assistant, which may be secretarial time. So I'm worried about our commitment to economic development.
John?
Yeah. I think what we're hearing from the majority of the council is policy direction, that we want more visible attention to the function of economic development. I hear very clearly how you've distributed it amongst the various department heads, but I think we're trying to send a very clear message about economic development and how it should be emphasized. And one of the two things that your council does is policy and budget, and so budget should be emphasizing the policy. So I'm not sure how that's going to be accomplished, but
Sure.
I think the direction you're getting from all of us here is economic development needs to be a little more in the forefront. How that's accomplished.
So I agree with you that economic development is expressly important, and it was inherent to every conversation we had while developing this budget. So keep that in mind while we go through each one of these departments. I realize that some cities may have an economic development department that has several employees, FTEs, in it. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're comparing apples to apples because of the way their alignment is with the city versus the way our alignment is. It's not that Kevin and Jeff or anyone else in planning and community development doesn't work economic development. Loud and clear hear you about the desire and dedication to economic development. But just know that just because a person doesn't say they are working economic development department doesn't mean that they're not working economic development and that that's a majority of their function.
Bill?
Since he included me when he said all,
All have an opinion.
the thing is, on any entity, if it's in the weeds and not on its own island, so to speak, it oftentimes is hidden away. And economic development, we all have worked, whoever's been on this council, we got the guy over here that's been on it longer than any of us, but he has seen this city grow and grow and grow based on economic development. Our former mayor pushed the heck out of economic development via region. I mean, we've got the Trek going here, and we got another building going.
Right.
We don't want to lose that momentum. We want to keep this thing just charging along,
Couldn't agree with you more.
and we want to keep it highlighted. So that's all I'm going to say.
I'd like to take it a step further and say that maybe we'd like to see some kind of budget provisions for the addition of a person to the Economic Development
Division.
Now, that doesn't have to be a director.
Yeah.
You know, it could be another person that reports to you that works with Doug, but I would like to see some kind of, however you make that, for our next meeting on what it would look like if we changed the budget and added another person in that department.
So from that, Shelley may not have said it today, we discussed it, but this is a balanced budget. So if you add something, you need to identify what you're going to take away as well.
Okay, and I think that if we saw the cost amount, then as we move through the rest of the budget, we could look for things that, you know, may not be as important as having another person in economic development.
Okay, I have one comment and maybe statement on this as well, and I fully support everything that's being said here because it is almost in some sense our lifeblood of Auburn.
Yeah.
I mean, we are ready to move forward, positioned to move forward, and continue to move forward. And I want to first say that under Doug Lean, I think we have one of the most top-notch real estate people in the nation working for us. This guy's a marvel at what he's been able to do since the time I've been in Auburn, and just seeing what's been done recently in this community, just outstanding. I think one piece that's missing maybe here is that for council to understand what Doug Lean needs, maybe he should tell us what's important to him in this respect and give us an opportunity to take a look at that. And if it means going back and doing some modifications to the budget, coming back into a balanced budget again, it's a consideration this council should have. But I'd like to hear from Doug.
And so every manager provided their input to the directors for what they needed in their budget. Okay.
This is perhaps a good time because it's not specifically in a program improvement on a PowerPoint that I see in this packet. Why don't we look at the 6 items that are being put forward as program improvements that are in the back of your general fund book related to economic development?
Is that the big book or the little book?
The little book.
Okay, back of the little book.
So it's
Little
under,
book should be the
under
last.
program improvements.
Should be the last tab. And it may be, is it the very first? So go past the summary pages. The first decision package is the one we're starting with, page 195. And as Mayor and Shelley alluded to, we sat down as a group of directors and worked with a limited amount of money that would incorporate some of the decision packages that were presented, and these were all agreed upon to move forward to you. First one being a 10-year economic development strategic plan. The city in the past has had this as a piece of their comprehensive plan, but we haven't conducted a citywide and long-term strategic planning effort to guide future city policy, investment, and infrastructure decisions in the way that's being presented here. And it will include community analysis, community strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, business and resident community feedback, information gained through substantive public outreach and education, specific economic development goals and objectives, specific economic development strategies, which are important because the specificity is something that is missing in many of our conversations. I think we all have the picture of where we want to go and what we need, but how do we get there? What are the steps to get us there? So number 6, specific economic development strategies, specific economic development implementation measures. along with an implementation plan about how it's going to look and get us where it is that we're trying to go over the next 10 years. The advantages of it, the completion of the 10-year economic development strategic plan will allow the city to be more strategic in future policy making, investment decisions, and infrastructure planning to maximize its return on the investment. I'd also like to just say, as we move through these 6, at any time, obviously, your questions or your thoughts, but Director Snyder, with your department's role in economic development and the many staff that you have committed to this, these decision packages were put together both by our department, with Doug and with Kevin and his team. So at whatever point, Kevin, you want to say anything or jump in, please do. We'd appreciate it. You want to just keep going through these, Council? Is that all right? Or do you want to stop on that one for a minute?
I'm going to stop on that for a minute. Now, where do you figure out the cost aspect of that recommendation?
Next page.
Next page?
Next page has the amount.
Is that a total of 250,000?
Correct.
A total of 250,000.
Correct.
If I might add something here on page.
And I'm sorry, I said there were 6. There were actually 5. My apologies.
Oh, page 199.
Yes. So we haven't got to that one yet.
No, but it relates to what we're talking about.
Okay, got it.
Here.
Okay, 199.
Look in the middle of the page, advantages.
What page are you on again, Bill?
199,
Okay.
middle of the page, advantages.
Yep.
It goes on to say historically, blah, 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 but we have to be a regional player, and that's what it says, and we are a regional player, and but putting our money where our mouth is important.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make us successful.
And you're talking about $300,000 of investment here over the course of $600,000, over $500,000 in funding these 5 different packages. That is going to be a significant increase in investment of economic development related goals that will get us a product rather than, Doug you said it best, Claude. Doug is fantastic in real estate world. Man, he puts together just awesome stuff. That is his background. Let the guy just go out and put the real estate stuff together. There are some strategic pieces that we need to do together in order to see the accomplishments and see the increase of the revenues that really is what the driving force is, and what we can do then with that revenue in community development is significant.
Well, I want to echo then what Largo said about what Economic Development Division needs is not an administrative person necessarily, but a professional who can handle the $600,000 worth of consultant work.
But somebody's going to need, that's right, somebody is going to have to manage each of these efforts. Yep.
Has Doug, when Doug was doing this, did he make any, statements or allude to him wanting or needing someone at the time?
We didn't talk about additional staff members. Kevin and Doug and our team, Dana had a big piece of putting the information together.
I think it would be interesting to have Doug share with us what he's thinking in regards to some of this. And
Well, so a lot of this isn't specifically coming from Doug.
I didn't think so.
It's specifically coming from a group effort.
Yeah.
Of identifying what the economic development needs are for the city.
Yeah.
Kevin, his team, Michael, Dana, myself, Doug, all of the directors, because every director in this room has a piece of economic development. Whether it's obvious or not, if you don't have good public safety, you're not going to have businesses and families that want to come here. If you don't have great HR, you're not going to attract the staff, the team that we need to move forward. So if you don't have great streets, you're not going to have people moving here. So every part of economic development is woven in. That's why I made that comment up front. It's woven into every one of the departments. And if you specifically say, I want one economic development employee, then you might be taking away one public works person that's going to be working on the roads. Or, and I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just saying that it's all so closely related that pulling out one piece may unravel a lot of kind of some groundwork that's been laid. But all of these in the decision package related to economic development were discussed and input, some by Kevin. Kevin helped write those, and I'm assuming Jeff too, and other people on the team. Michael authored some of this. Doug was involved in it. We all looked at it. So it's not just one person that's putting this together.
Kevin, do you want to say something?
I do. I think I'm not going to talk about the need for staff. That's a conversation between administration and council. But I want to point out something I think that you do need to understand, which is you've talked about how successful the city has been, and it has been successful. And part of the reason why is we took the different approach we took to economic development. When the Great Recession happened, we lost economic development staff, and we had a choice at that time how we did economic development, and it became a team effort across departments. And that has been our hallmark for the last several years, and I think that's in large part the reason. Doug has done a wonderful job. He's a great partner, but it has been a partnership among all departments, and I think that is what has distinguished the city and why we are held up by so many other communities as a model of success. So as you talk about this, remember that the partnerships, whether it's been between our department and administration, whether it's between Shelley and police, all the departments have been at the table working on economic development, and I don't think oftentimes you have departments that get specialized. We have not specialized economic development. We've kept it at a partnership level, and I do think that's why Auburn has been so successful in large part.
Well, I believe that what you're saying is very true. Our planning department and permitting department is probably one of the best in the nation. You go in there and they problem solve. You want time from the mayor's office to talk about, you might be a builder or whatever, and you've got some ideas, you have access and whatever. The beauty of Doug was he would work it. He would work the situation. He would find out that there were 3 owners of this piece of property, and he would work with the other 2 to get it sold so that there would be 1 owner, and then he would help hold their hand through traffic mitigation, and he would hold their hand through, the various stages. And that has really paid off in an incredible environment. He was a troubleshooter.
Yeah,
and
a fixer.
He was a fixer. Yeah. And I'm not convinced we don't need another fixer.
Just keep in mind, though, too, that Doug is not the only hand holder.
He's the only full-time hand holder.
No, I would disagree with that. I
Okay.
would challenge it, Largo. We have numerous hand holders within this city that is their full-time job, and they manage to do a lot more on top of that.
Okay.
Doug may be highly visible to you, and you have very good access to him.
Mm-hmm.
But Doug is not the only hand holder, nor is he single-handedly doing these deals.
No, I think I alluded to that he's not single-handedly. I think the environment here, from access to the mayor's office and access to permitting and other types of things, that's created the environment where he can fix things.
Yeah. Should we move on to the next improvement?
Are you still in the back portion, Michael?
I am. I'm on page 197. Shelley, your idea, I think you are absolutely correct in your assessment that we will not be done with everyone in an hour and a half. So,
One can only hope for miracles.
The downtown storefront improvement program is an opportunity for the city to invest general fund money into an existing program that is a matching grant through CDBG that allows for our downtown businesses to have some facade improvements, their storefront improvements made because there's a tidal wave coming, and not all of the folks on Main Street and the ones on the off streets understand what the impact of 2,000 more people in a very short amount of time is going to be on their business, and how we help to present that as the community that we want to be is really important. And so that's the nature of this, is allowing for more dollars to be used, to be accessed by those businesses that we are looking to. Yep.
Since you're implying that we use some of our CDBG money for economic development, which is allowed, but we haven't done much in the past, what do you think the impact's going to be on human services if we take this approach?
You know, we have set, I'll be very frank, we have set aside for the last couple of years a dollar amount that came out of some overage that was not expected, so it didn't take away from any prior service that we had provided through CDBG. We took the overage and used it for economic development, which is something that we haven't always done with block grant, as you well know. There has not been one applicant to our program in the money that we have set aside. It's still set aside. It's a line of credit with HUD. We can use it at the time that we choose, or we can reallocate it for another purpose. This is an incentivizing of that program, which now is a matching program. Means that if you want $10,000, you got to put in 5, and we've found that there is not an appetite to do that. And so, how do we get folks to start? We've got to help them. We've got to have 1 or 2 good projects, and the rest are going to get it. But we got to start somewhere, and this will allow us to start somewhere.
Yeah, I have to agree with that because, again, as we all know, with the block grant CDBG, it's so fluid right now, and with what's going on in D.C., you know, we're going to see more than likely another response that's going to bring those funds even lower than what they are now. They are at the lowest they've been in probably 20 years. But we could be facing 2016 federal fiscal budget, we could be facing sequestration again. You know, there's no adoption of the appropriations currently going on in D.C., which means we're going to be on another continuing resolution probably for the 2015 fiscal budget, which impacts us greatly and other organizations. But I think we're going to have to really be on our guard as we go forward in all aspects of block grant, but especially if we're using it in some aspects of the downtown storefront improvement program. And, of course, not compromising other needs for CDBG.
Right.
So this is something I think is really going to have to be really in the forefront of all of this to really make some good decisions and perhaps some policy decisions.
Yep. We'll keep moving along if there's no other comments there. Page 198. Market and economic studies. We need to update our previous studies, or in some cases perform new studies to provide information that is used in our efforts to attract new development. We've got to have the data in order to support what it is that we're all talking about right here, attracting those businesses that we want to see long term, taking the burden off of the residential taxpayer and spreading it around to the industries. The next one, the business development recruitment, page 199. Support enhanced business recruitment efforts by creating a dedicated funding source for direct and indirect marketing and recruitment efforts to prospective businesses. The different marketing efforts are listed there. This would be direct. This would be Auburn having a booth, Auburn reaching out, Auburn going to the trade shows that we need to be at based on what we've found in the studies that we've conducted, doing strategic outreach to those businesses that we are serious about seeing located, being located here in Auburn. In addition to that, then the business support services on page 200. This would be funding for many of those networking and outreach opportunities, like you were mentioning, Councilmember Pelosi, that have become really vital, and other organizations that should be doing some of this because it's their mandate and they're not. We've got to pick up the slack and make sure that the city is attending its interests and making sure the businesses are well served. And so we're able to do that. We're able to do that best.
These last two seem kind of
support
redundant to me. I don't understand why they aren't combined.
They are. One is meant essential. One is more for outreach and intentional development, or intended or hoped for development, however you want to say it. The other is to support the services that are being provided currently.
Okay, so the first one is kind of like a cold call, and the second one is the guy who
You got
invited you
it.
to come and buy insurance.
I like that.
I like the second one better than the first one. Cold calls don't work that great.
Well, but, yeah.
Cold calls is what brought businesses into this town. When Doug was out reaching out to other businesses and talking to them and found out, that they were interested in coming in, I think that's what led to some businesses coming to our town.
When Doug and others were
And
all
others,
doing that,
yeah.
yes.
You don't
Yeah.
think it fits in the definition of the second one, where it's,
Director Schneider?
To expand on the first one, I think what the city has not been doing, because we have not had the resources, we have not actually been going out and participating in common networking and other recognition events. So, for example, if we want more retail trade in our community for sales tax purposes, there are several nationwide conferences that we need to have a presence at. For example, the International Shopping Center Conference in Las Vegas. If we want folks to come and put their foothold in Auburn, they need to know we exist. So that's an example. There may be businesses that have headquarters in other parts of the country that we really want here, and the only way we're going to get their attention is if we go and knock on their door. And so it's more than cold calling. It's actually getting ourselves out into the marketplace and not just expecting people to know who we are, but actually making them aware of who we are.
And
One
then
of
the
those-
other is
yeah.
the services once they're here, to basically, right?
In our conversation, and this is just an example, there are many times that we'll say, it would be great to have a Target here, or it would be great to have Costco here. Well, that is essentially a cold call, because I guarantee they're not sitting around in their office thinking, oh, I wonder if Auburn, Washington is interested in us coming to their city. We've got to do some kind of intentional outreach to them. So,
We didn't get Bob here, right? Just sitting back thinking, I wonder if Bob wants to come here, right? There was some intentional outreach.
so those, like I said, those five representing an investment of $600,000 over the next 2 years and agreed upon by directors are a big piece. I will say that there are two items that will be impacting in this area when Innovation and Technology Department shares their budget and goals. We are looking at a complete overhaul of our website, and we are looking at a campaign of marketing and rebranding the city and coming up with a waterfront presentation of that marketing across the board. Doesn't matter, department-wide, city-wide, wherever you see it. It might take on different iterations, but it's going to be consistent, and it's going to be professional, it's going to be current. So those two items are an enhancement to economic development and a real tool. Any other thoughts with the decision packages on economic development, or shall we move on to budget detail? And we will get into, let's deal with the budget detail for those divisions, and then we'll go to multimedia and facilities.
Now, does that mean we're not going to go through parks? We haven't got there yet? Where are we in this notebook now?
We are going back to page 22.
Great.
Okay.
We are off of the program improvements related to economic development, and we're dealing with the budget for those divisions that we just discussed. And then we'll move to the multimedia and facilities.
I'm still intrigued by the possibilities in the additions that you proposed for economic development. It's a different mindset for me. And I would like to see it in a work or organizational chart, where you would see, of course, it would report, I assume, to Michael, or would this new kind of approach with the professional services report to Kat? I'd like to see some more about this concept, because it might have some possibilities.
About you're talking about these improvements?
Yes.
And the contracts, who's leading the studies and who's leading the efforts?
Well, kind of, is this going to be contractual services, and this person reports to you, or do they report to the other portion? What part would be contracted out? What might be another person? Now, I assume the $125,000 one might be a person. I just kind of like to see pictorially what this would look like, and and where Doug's position fits in this too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do the rest of you council members think? Or do you think it's a waste of time?
No, I support all these economic developments, even the one I grumbled about being a cold call. I support every one of those. But I think unless you have more focused staff support for managing those, I'm not sure they're going to be successful. And so this widespread economic development where somebody does 10% of their time to manage one of these contracts, I'm not convinced it's going to work. I still think that economic development needs its own professional planner, either assigned from Kevin's department or in their own department, wherever it is, to manage the $600,000 that we want to invest in all these good things.
Yeah.
Got it.
I think that was my question when I was looking at it. Who's going to be managing each one of these budgets? I mean, under whose offices is it going to fall under? And I think that's exactly what you were saying.
Yeah. I want to see more.
Got it.
Get the flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. They all generally sound good to you. Good proposals, yes? Okay. But more detail.
Just on that one.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
I want all of them to know how we're going to manage the $600,000.
Yeah, that's what I meant. All of that.
In each of these 5 areas.
Yeah.
I want to see the whole economic development piece.
Understood.
Okay.
Any questions about the, so we just did the oversight, the objectives, or the accomplishments and the objectives for 3 different divisions. Now you have the budget detail that starts on page 22. We have 2 more divisions to go, but we're handling separately because they are interfund. So let's move on to budget detail questions if you have them in 22. Councilmember Trout brings up a very good point.
Break.
What do we have? How long are we scheduled to go here today?
15 more minutes.
Till
15 more
4.
minutes?
Till 4.
Can I leave?
Oh, I'm not going to. Yeah. Are there questions related to any of the lines there of that budget detail?
I haven't delved into this probably as deeply as I should for emergency services, but it seems like supplies to get us through an emergency, or maybe under budgeted at $14,000. That's on page, it's on page 25 and 26.
Page 25 and 26?
Yeah, when we do supplies for emergency services, and only $14,000.
What did you think about the $14,000?
I think it's well spent. I just think we may need more.
We may need more. Most of that is just it's emergency preparedness. It's not to be prepared for any disaster.
So how do we budget for that?
We spend and we reimburse with a declared disaster.
We don't set aside $2 million for, there would never be enough.
Yeah,
But
true.
we don't specifically set that aside. This is more for, I believe, for Sarah with CERT and other opportunities within that Department for Emergency Management. But if there were an actual declared emergency, that's when mayor has authority to spend when it's a declared emergency, and then as soon as physically possible, council comes together to approve those expenditures.
And what's your limit on the ability to do that?
I don't
Depends
know
on
that
the
there is
disaster.
a limit. In a declared disaster, there is no limit on the mayor.
Okay.
And it depends if it's federal or state.
Okay.
Yep. That's when everybody in this room gets their P cards out and we all go buy some shovels.
Well, but I remember, let me relate an anecdote that kind of relates to this. I was talking to Mike Gerber when OSO happened, the day after it happened.
Yeah.
Some of the deployment of resources was being held up because they were wondering who's going to pay.
That's right.
And
right.
I think that sucks. I think we should have some, and now you're telling me that the mayor does have the ability to respond.
Yep. Mayor does.
Yeah, there was a significant holdup, and it was a travesty and a tragedy that, they didn't even know who was going to buy toilet paper, right? Pallets of toilet paper and paper towels coming in, and they couldn't accept them. They couldn't sign off for them. No one had the authority to sign off. So Sarah and Michael and I believe Kevin and I met when Sarah came back. Oh, and
Steve
Gross. To talk about, it was a lessons learned and a debrief on what they found, because they were there working logistics a good portion of that time and did an incredible job while they were there, by the way. But it's those little things that you don't think of. You might have a great plan in place for how do you deploy everyone, but who's going to sign off on the invoice when it comes through? Who has the authority to do that? And when there was no communication on that, everything was held up because of it.
How we, and it's part of the reason that the continuity of operations plan that sometimes gets a little mundane feeling, and some of the exercises that we go through, boy, you see something like an OSO and you're reminded, we don't want that to be us. Yeah. Any other questions in budget detail there on those pages through 30-something, 33, 32?
On page 28, I see here again, we've got Sister City Organizational Support. Explain to me why it's in a couple of different locations. I know that we divide some things out because different departments are involved in, but explain to me the rationale.
So there are a number of, not only are there the fees and the dues that we have related to the actual Sister City Association and the larger, not only the one that we formed here, the local, but also then the larger.
Okay.
And we have a burden of, and this is, we have a burden of exchange of gifts. There are a number of things that are required when a government meets government that have to be accommodated, as well as travel related to those.
Got it. Thank you.
But I would like to add that we don't purchase gifts out of our budget. That's for the nonprofit organization.
Right.
Yeah, I apologize. Thank you. Good, very good distinction.
We do not gift
Yes.
public funds.
That's correct.
If you could strike that from the record, Sean, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Delete.
So then what
Jason,
is this
stop recording.
$5,000 for?
I can get the detail for
Is that a membership
for that.
dues or?
It's for both our local association and for the national association.
Okay, that's what I needed. It's kind of a
For the
membership.
amount, it's based on the amount of cities that you have the relationship with.
So maybe we shouldn't say support, we should see membership, and that's more general than dues or fees.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it is more detailed than the
Yeah.
word support. I
Okay.
agree with that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And I assume that's what's on page 30 there, under economic development, are some of the items off the wish list improvements from the back of the book. Okay.
That is correct.
So where in the book is the $125,000 for the
Page 29.
page 29 where? In the middle. Okay, right there.
It's under professional cert, yeah.
Okay.
And so I think that's an interesting number to look at there when you get into total investment of economic development, because it lists out the other items that we are involved with as well beyond the decision packages.
And under what program is Doug's particular position? Where is it in this budget?
It's funded out of administration in the salaries and wages.
Okay, okay, great. Now, I see there that we have the $20,000 for King County, Economic Development King County, that we haven't previously paid on page 29?
We have.
We have.
Previously.
Okay, it's just now we're really making a clean line item.
So now part of that too is, remember, certain things have come under the office of the mayor and council or administration, where it was under a different organization in previous budgets.
Okay, so it's not new. And is the
No.
2,000 for Pierce County, I assume that's the same thing?
That's not new either. It's just now
okay.
shown up as a line item that you get to see, as well as it's now in the administration budget.
Okay.
Bill? Oh,
And
sorry.
the Urban Land Institute, it's not new either?
It's not new.
Okay, great. The new ones are really the improvements.
Those
ones
program
that-
improvements,
Got
and
it.
unless you see it as a program improvement, this is a rollover, if you will,
Okay, great.
of everything that was in the budget previously.
And a cleanup, you're
And a
making.
cleanup,
yeah,
right.
okay.
We had many things that were put in different places that we were doing citywide, and you'll see it not only in this department, but in all others as well, that have been brought into one, and Shelley and her team have done a great job of really working to streamline that, because it hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
But it's making it as
It was-
clean and as clear as possible.
It was making sure that if it was something that was coming out of the mayor's office,
Yeah,
then it showed in the mayor's budget.
Yeah.
It wasn't put in planning or somewhere else. There were a couple of issues that I recall in the past where when there was some realignment of employees done, that I thought I would see the budget come down that amount.
Yeah.
And it didn't,
yeah.
because it wasn't aligned there.
See, and I really support this, because as, you know, Council Operations is looking at some recommendations for some kind of more streamlined approval processes for the mayor. And they all speak to the issue of approval if it's in that category. And so the more things that we have clean in the category, the smoother this is going to be.
Yep.
So I really appreciate.
And we're all dealing with the same information.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah,
not,
so-
it's not one person knows it and the other doesn't.
Thank you.
Councilmember Pelosi?
Page 31. Professional services, just below the middle of the page, actually, the middle of the page.
Yep.
The human services contracts, 490,000, that's,
Up
Our-
to 1% of
That's-
prior year's general fund expenditures.
and that's our,
Yeah.
That's our contracts with nonprofits.
yeah, has nothing, that's.
Correct.
That's above and beyond CBDG.
CDBG, yes.
CDBG.
The other, item 3 there.
Yep.
Human Service One Stop Center, can you explain that 50,000?
You will recall that when Walmart was wanting their permit for the Super Walmart, Mayor Lewis at the time required a community development investment, and they gave us a check for $100,000. And so that was put in and has been kept there as an ongoing fund source for development of our Veterans and Human Services One Stop.
Is that the only funding we have for the Vet Center right now?
We have an agreement that council has come to in years past that we have not come back to we will not need until the time of an actual construction or acquisition of a facility, but we have the ability to invest a Section 108 loan, which is a loan guarantee against our CDBG funds, up to 5 times. So that would give us today $2.5 million as a city contribution, for which we would pay back from our block grant program. It's a 20-year pay, it's a 20-year payback.
Or from other sources.
And does that
Or from
impact
other
our
sources.
debt?
We can pay for it
Limit?
out of our block grant entitlement
Okay,
from
okay.
the feds. So it would be money out, and then we'd pay it over 20 years.
Is the Human Services One-Stop Center, is that the same as the vets?
It is. It's a veterans in
Okay.
one, you know what, and thank you.
Okay, 'cause
both of you.
I was confused.
It should be a Veterans and Human Services
Okay,
Center.
great, okay,
Right.
And we
thank you.
will correct that.
Do we have a site planned yet for that?
We do, and at 4:01, I'm happy to talk with you about it out in the hallway.
Okay. Thank you.
And you're going to make that change there?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
No, that's great.
That's
You're absolutely,
really
yep. No,
wonderful.
it needs to be changed.
And the concept is wonderful, too.
And I think, Director Coleman, with your and Mayor direction, I don't know if we want to get into facilities and the other today. It's up to all of you.
How many of you, do you want to continue and move through facilities, or do you want to wait? Our
If-
next meeting is not scheduled until September, correct?
If we did facilities and multimedia right now, we would be done in less than 15 minutes, and we'd be done with administration.
You think that we could get through anything that fast?
There's two divisions. I think it's pretty straightforward.
I'm good till 4:30.
I have a doctor's MRI.
You weren't good at
August 26th. Okay.
4:45.
Our next meeting is August 26th. So do you want to try and get through there if we find that we're having a lot of questions or that we're not going to be able to accommodate 15 minutes? Is 15 minutes work for you, Largo?
Oh, absolutely. I
Okay.
think we try.
All right. Does that sound all right?
Okay. So let's move to the other book, the big book.
Going to the big book?
Going to the big book. Going to the interfunds.
I thought we were going to do something easy. The big book does not look easy. Jeez.
Heavy book.
The big,
Facilities, so 505?
Yes. So, we did that one.
Michael,
Yes.
did you want to talk about the CDBG fund?
Yes.
Maybe.
So you have the org chart, then you move on to that first one, 119. I'm sorry, Wayne, I said 505. Let's do the first one. It'll take a moment there. Fund 119, which is Community Development Block Grant. That is, you see the accomplishments and the objectives. And it's, again, Auburn puts in about $500,000. We get about,
Oh, I'm totally lost.
sorry, we are on page 2. Page 2 of Big Book.
Big, oh, that's good. Okay, that's easy for me.
Under
Page two.
section 119.
Oh, thank you. This is nice helping me.
Councilmember Trout, we said 15 minutes, and now you just got another 15 minutes
That's
added.
right.
All
She
right.
already
all right.
got up and left.
Oh, did she? Oh, good. All right. I apologize.
She knows better than to say, when you say 15 minutes, she knows it's a half an hour.
That's it. I'm out of there.
We haven't even taken an offering yet.
That's how you get out of here today, right?
So you see the objectives and the accomplishments, and again, CDBG, we get about $500,000 a year. Council is gracious and is a leader in the region by putting in about $500,000 in general fund money, and it's part of our overall strategy of how we serve the many needs in our community, and we do it well between these two funds, between the general fund and CDBG. CDBG is money in, money out. And so it's reimbursable. We spend it on the projects that council approves every year in the annual action plan, and that's what's represented here in these couple pages.
So, question on the transitional housing goals.
Yep.
So, do you have, and it's a statement here, but can you share, and maybe not now, but what those transitional housing goals will be or are?
Yes. The development group, yes. I will, I would love to talk to you about that.
Thank you.
Yep.
You know, the Small Business Assistance Center for Green River Community College, is it still housed in Kent?
They have an office here, and they have an office in Kent. Yep.
We're
And
paying
that-
for the one in Auburn.
We are paying for the one in Auburn, and it has been the policy of prior administration and current that when they choose to not be in Auburn and serve Auburn, that will be the end of our relationship.
Okay, great. I see that you're going to do some medical and dental with Health Point.
You're on page 4, Larkin?
Yes, page 4.
Yep. Which we currently do,
Okay.
almost $60,000.
Do you think that we can possibly use this as some leverage, since we're already doing this amount with the King County, Seattle Board of Health, as it relates to offsetting some of the loss of the public health clinic?
I think it would be a very good conversation for the capacity building.
They may
Yep.
not know that we're already doing this, and
Yep. That's a very.
We could leverage-
It's a great statement. And I think
Okay.
I think if we pulled together our total amount of investment in public health or offset public health costs, I think we have a pretty significant amount of investment from Auburn in that.
I see that under Green River Small Business Assistance, last year we were at 100,000, and this year we're at 40,000.
That's $100,000 total for professional services. GRC,
Okay, now we're
Green River
doing a
Community.
line item.
They-
Being
yeah,
transparent.
They
Yeah,
have never,
right. Line item there.
Green River Community College, the SBAC has never received a dollar more than $37,500.
Good.
So,
Thank you.
yep. I will mention again, just because it needs to be mentioned before I see if we want to go on to facilities, out of CDBG is where our housing repair program is funded, and you're talking about largely a huge percentage, little old ladies in our community who call you as council members, who call us as staff and say, I've got a furnace that's not working, I'm really cold, I've got a roof that's leaking, and it's a way that we're able to make a repair so that they don't become homeless and they stay where they're comfortable and they have a good quality of life.
Little old ladies or little old people?
Honestly, the percentage, 80% little old ladies.
Okay.
Yep. Little old lovely ladies.
And is that,
You're going to get a call.
Lovely little old
in
ladies.
last year where you had the construction projects, it was 240, this year it's down to, or next 15 and 16 is going to be 200,000 each, right?
Until I come back to Director Coleman and say, hey, we need $20,000 more moved over to that.
Yeah.
No, it's, I say that, but
But
it's.
right now, it's set at 200,000.
That's correct. What I mean by that, and I say that a little tongue-in-cheek, we don't spend more in any of these efforts than we get reimbursed for.
Yeah.
Should we go on to facilities?
Yes.
Okay. So, facilities, you have the accomplishments and the objectives there in front of you on page 6. I would also mention that facilities has been doing very intentional work. A large part began when facilities was part of, at the time, Planning Director Snyder's department. And then facilities has since moved into administration. But the energy conservation grants and what we have done with the cost savings there have been significant for the city. It's been a very good program that we continue to look at opportunities for expansion of that. Yeah.
Your gov would not come under facilities, would it?
It does not. It's served by YourGov, but it comes out of IT. Yep,
But IT would be the...
that's correct.
Correct.
send a message through your gov and let me know how it's working. The first we have we have a couple of decision packages that are in your packet there at the very end, in the very back again.
Of which book, A or B?
Of the large one, the one you're in.
What is the
can't even get to it
restroom
'cause it's so
update
thick.
at the P, capital R, capital A, capital B? What
That's
is
the
that for?
Parks, Recreation, and Arts Building. And there is a sink in there that was it was actually put in there by Caesar Augustus, and we've decided that it's time for it to be removed. And it really does have a very Roman Greco feel to it.
Does it?
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Well,
That bathroom is
Is that where our
in desperate
teen
need
center-
of upgrading at the prep.
We have not improved the teen center.
I know, but if we do, why are we going to do this work and then completely remodel it later?
Wait till it'd be part of the existing. I mean, we can't, it's in there for now because we don't have the other in there, Wayne.
So in the back, past the ECDev, or no, I'm sorry, they're not the ECDev, it's the first, should be the first decision package,
Page 432.
page 432.
You can find it.
We have three program improvements. The first one is a position that, again, was agreed upon by all of the directors. It's a proposal for a facilities and property analyst. One of the things that we all deal with, legal, community development, and public works, and finance, when it comes to land or property acquisition, we need a specific and professional lead on doing that, and we have not had that in the city. This analyst would not only handle acquisition, but would handle leasing, would handle the scheduling, the maintenance scheduling, and also disposition of property. It was very readily agreed on by all the directors. This is a need in our city. It impacts us all, and it will also allow us to best maintain the reserve fund of facilities, so that it isn't as much crisis management and let's see which roofs cave in tomorrow. It's a planned schedule of upkeep and management that is appropriate for the size of city that we've become. It'll work for that person. That position will work for Lisa Moore as our as she serves in her role as property and facilities manager.
What role would this person have in working with the city attorneys on contracts for, like, rentals?
They would be the lead on it. They would be the lead, and it's one of those situations that will allow us, you want to talk about, we were talking about efficiencies. Where do we get our dollar back for the asset that we are allowing a group to use, whether that's a for-profit or nonprofit? We need an expert in that field, and that's going to be this person.
Do we have enough of a volume? I mean, we probably have back things that need to be, but do we have enough of a volume to warrant a full person?
We have more than enough. We have multiple. Just thinking of the five buildings that came on with Game Farm, an additional 5 buildings with the Her property. We have a few issues with some of our parking lot needs. The facilities is large and broad, and there are many that need attention.
I really would agree, especially as we look at some things in the past, but I'm not sure which department, if that shouldn't be under legal, under facilities, under, I mean.
It's a facility-specific person that it really, you're talking about a property management person who understands this world that we need from, my hope, you've got a private sector person who understands this world and will help us with our policies, procedures, our process. How do we go about all of the functions related to acquisition, management, and disposition?
And again, most of the, can people that work, regardless of which department they're in. It's not siloed. They're working across departments. Interdepartmental communication and working relationship is critical to all of these working.
I don't know if it would be helpful for me to indicate this, but what we contemplated when we discussed this is that legal would still be involved in drafting documents and all that, but the functions that this person would do would not be those that would call for an attorney. We're talking about a property manager, somebody that gets involved in the work that is actually on the ground rather than in the legal realm, if that helps.
So in other words, we're talking about property management such as the restaurant at the golf course and other facilities similar to that.
Yep.
Our parking lot.
Yep.
Any property that the city owns.
Well, that might be kind of nice because sometimes we kind of forget we had this little piece, this little 2-foot piece here, and it would be nice to kind of get a handle on that and be able to have a total picture of.
That's right.
Yeah.
The realm is
Getting big.
large and
Yes.
getting larger. Yep. The second decision package there is the City Hall. It's misspelled there. It is not an artium. It is an atrium. We need to fix the atrium. We have had some significant investments into this building, but the atrium needs attention and it leaks badly, and if we don't do work on it immediately, we're going to end up with it on somebody's head, and we're working toward that.
This facility is like a boat. We just keep pouring money into it.
We will not name which boat we think it is most like. And then the last decision package there is creating a specific line item for city property sales and purchases. When we come to these different points of acquisition, we are pulling money from here and there. It's not a dedicated amount, and so along with the analyst position, you have a fund that will pay for all the items that we oftentimes talk about, the appraisals and the assessments and the title reports. We've been doing it already. We're already paying for it. We need to put it into just one pot of money, be clear about it. That's how much we have to spend. So, going back then to page, well, the tab of facilities, 505, that tab in there starts on page 6, then moves toward the budget detail. Do you have any questions about facilities? Works under Rob, I'm sorry, it works under Rob and as the Director of Human Resources. Sorry to interrupt you, Mayor.
Can I go to page 12?
Sure.
Operations, rentals, and leases. What is the Stratford lot, just for curiosity's sake?
It's across the street. It's the Bank of Washington lot. Stratford was the original owner of that property. Those are the council just passed the lease agreement that is for the parking lot next to Liquidation World and the one to the east of Sunbreak.
But aren't those $2,500 a month total?
They are, plus the we pay the property tax.
Yeah. And then Sound Transit Security is a new item, or it's new on this. It may be a line item that was somewhere else.
Rob may want to,
That's the security on the parking structure itself, correct, Rob?
I know what that is.
Right there.
When,
I doubt it.
well, when
we just hired an ECDev person as support for $10,000.
when we were involved in the partnership of the parking garage, we made a commitment for there to be security. And I think that's where it came from. Does it have to be something that the city pays for? That's where it is. And if we could get somebody else to pay for it, great, but I don't think we do have any volunteers coming forward on that. But it is a commitment that the city made for security at the parking garage. And you might remember that when that was built, it was actually going to be one floor shorter, and we actually contributed to it being one floor larger.
Another security advantage of that, or a piece that directly affects us, is the kiss and ride lot and the public trash enclosures that are there that are ours, used by Sound, that kiss and ride in a joint agreement with Sound Transit.
What's the, I missed the kiss and ride, but it's probably because of my age. The Don Small parking lot, is that where we keep the city vehicles and all that?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Kiss.
Got a question on page 14. Under miscellaneous, the theater property tax 2015, 2016.
Yep.
Is that's not a new item either? That would be something that may have been moved here, or is that new?
It's not, it's broken out. You'd probably see it on your claims and vouchers. If you look through those, you'll notice the monthly lease,
Okay.
and we are also responsible for the property taxes.
Okay.
Michael?
Yep. Bill.
Under same page, 14. Middle of the page, item 6, theater property tax. Since we lease it, we still have to pay taxes?
We do,
Part
that's
of the
part of,
We do.
part of the contract bill that we agreed to when we first signed
Okay.
that lease agreement.
That's unusual, though, isn't it, for leasing?
No?
We do it
not
on,
necessarily.
like I just mentioned, we do those parking lots that we lease across the street, we pay the property tax on that as well.
No fighting, gentlemen.
There's a large black.
I know. It just looks like more fun to say no fighting with them hitting each other.
Thankfully.
I think that's the reason we
He's
need
not
this
gonna make it
property
with a pencil.
analyst that we just agreed to.
That's right.
We get some leases that are not our advantage.
No.
Michael, I
Councilman
probably
Trump.
have seen it before, but I just want to make sure. Page 13, water sewer storm PPB, what does that mean?
Where are you at? What line?
On page 13 at the very top where utilities, number 1, water sewer storm, there's TB on 3 items. What does that mean?
Those are initials. The Tamara Baker.
Okay.
Tamara is immortalized in this
I
document.
believe that she just wanted to note that she had provided that information.
We were trying to make it more technical, so.
She's much like Thomas Kincaid, the painter of light. She tries to put these items in here and see if we notice where they are.
We're on overtime, Michael.
Next time I
Well,
see
she
that,
at least will claim what she's...
4:45, John.
It's the bomb, not Tamara Baker. It's the bomb.
Thank you.
Any other questions on facilities before we move on to multimedia? As our final, by the way. Randy Bailey, nice to see you in attendance for this entire thing. You have the accomplishments. You have the accomplishments there and the objectives.
Which book, A or B?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're in the same-
Stay in the big
large
book. Right there. Move on to the next tab, page 18.
Section 518, multimedia.
It kind of looks like the Auburn International Farmers Market won out here on the Facebook.
Do we have a farmer's market?
As far as hits,
Below market?
hey,
It took you 3 hours to make all those hits.
I love it.
No, that's why the volunteers down there need Wi-Fi.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Question on 21.
Yep.
Under professional services, Auburn Magazine previously budgeted for citizen survey. Does that mean we're not going to do the citizen survey?
No, excuse me. Could you say that one more time?
So on page 21,
Yep.
under professional services, item 2 in 2015, Auburn Magazine previously budgeted for citizen survey.
That's where we pulled the money because the citizen survey was not done in 2014.
But are we going to do it in 2015?
There,
This implies we're not going to do it in 2015.
the citizen survey had previously been budgeted in the IT budget, and so this is the multimedia budget that is now under administration, under public affairs and marketing.
So it is the magazine and the survey for 29,000.
This is the magazine.
So where is the survey?
I believe that it would be with IT.
Nice.
I don't think so. I don't think the citizen survey was put in. I think that what we're doing is we're looking, it is in the program improvement, I think, in IT, where we're doing the web,
Yeah.
the outreach. It's going to be a component of that. I don't think it's going to be the Elway. Is that what
That's
you're
right.
referring to?
Yep, it's Elway.
Is it Elway?
That's correct. So in IT, embedded in the marketing and branding effort, which is going to be a significant investment, there is a community outreach that will far outweigh our community survey efforts in the past.
Page 22,
Page 22.
at the very bottom, miscellaneous. Item
Yep.
3, dues, subscription, service clubs. Can we
Yep.
identify the service clubs where the 500 is going in? Oh, it's gone.
Yep, it's gone in 15, 16. We wrapped it all up into one. Again, 13, and we have an inherited budget here from a number of these divisions because they were in different places.
Yeah, I
And so they're all being brought under that single umbrella.
Okay,
and
cool.
yep,
Thank
yep,
you,
yep.
thank you.
Other questions?
Just a quick statement.
Here ended the lesson.
You know, I really appreciate the efforts that you've made to bring this transparency to the budget, and recognizing, in fact, that because it is more transparent, a lot more questions get asked. But I thank you for it.
Well, and that was going to be my closing comment, Councilmember Holman, is the fact that you did have so many questions today is fact that you care enough about the budget to be looking through it. We cared enough at providing you the draft to make sure that you had detailed information that you might not have had in the past, and had the directors here available to provide you with specific information, as opposed to putting that all on Shelley. This is, hopefully, Shelley, you will agree that this was a less stressful way for you.
Yes, it was.
Throughout the budgeting process. And change is difficult for everyone. I'm the first one to understand that. But I just want to, again, say thank you to Shelley and her team, Tamara, for sitting in with all of the directors as we went through this budget. Bob, you're new to this, but next year we'll be looking to you for answers. Hopefully we didn't scare you away today. But I really do appreciate the level of research and study that you all did on this budget, and also for the directors and for their teams that have been here today, sitting in, ready to answer any questions that you might have had. This is a team effort, and I think at the end of this we will have an outstanding budget that we all understand and will move forward with and move the city forward. So next time we're together is August 26th, correct? Yes. And we will...
Well,
I mean, how are we doing?
Well, this is how they were scheduled. This is when we could get council all together. And I'm hopeful that we can get through everything by the September 24th meeting. If it looks like after the next meeting that we might need another meeting, we'll get one scheduled in there. But we need to be done by September 24.
Mayor,
Yes.
I would just like to also give kudos to Finance and all the staff that made input into this. I've been through a few budgets myself now, and this is clearly transparent and educational. And I know that the mayor supports this. She's a financial guru herself with her background. And so I think this is excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you all for the additional time today and for all of your care and concern over how we move the city forward.